Okay, so the transmission is completely assembled. I painted my top cover, put that on there, sealed it with just a little bit of that anaerobic thread maker, whatever it's called, gasket maker, blah, blah, blah. I had to take the shifter off because with that handle on there, the only way I could get it out from under the car was to lay it sideways. And if I'm gonna mount it to the engine, it's definitely not going back in that way. So after I got everything adjusted right, the shifter, I was real careful taking it off, and I ran some wire through the arms, shifter arms, I don't know, so they won't get out of alignment, you know, they won't rotate. And I also put some new bushings. These are hardened steel bushings in there, new clips, and I put some grease on there. But then also put some anti-seize. I think I showed that before. And let's see, here is my old throwout bearing. You can tell that how wobbly this thing is. It's pretty worn out, and this thing was spraying grease. You can see there on the back side where it was spraying grease out. That's what was ending up all over the inside of my, see right there, all over the inside of my bell housing, and probably got on my clutch disc, and that's why the clutch wasn't working. So this thing is pretty worn out. So I got a new one right in there, and my fork. Cleaned out the bell housing. I also have the engine sitting, hanging on the hoist with my load leveling, load leveler. So this is a pretty cheapo Harbor Freight hoist. Big problem with this hoist is it does not hold pressure overnight. So I'm committed. I've got this thing on here. I can't even put it back on the stand because I've got the clutch on here. So got the new flywheel on it. I don't want to touch anything. The old flywheel is original 66 flywheel. I had to get rid of that thing. It had little check marks in it and probably not even straight, hot spots, all that. So fancy new McLeod clutch. I use my little install tool to align the disc in the middle. So hopefully it will go on there. I've tried putting on a transmission and a clutch before without one of these tools, and well, it was a bear. So I do have one other issue, which it's not going to hold me up. I can fix it later, but I don't have time to get new bolts. And for some reason, I'm missing a bolt. I don't know why, but all these bolts, they don't seem to be the right length for holding the transmission on and the bell housing. Also, my new transmission case is beefier because it's made out of aluminum. So this part here is about a ½ inch thicker than the cast iron. So I need longer bolts. So I'm gonna have to use these bolts for the transmission. And that means I don't have longer bolts to mount the bell housing to the engine. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is use maybe just 2 bolts for each one, just for now, until I can get new bolts. But I gotta do this today. Otherwise, I gotta take my clutch off because this thing's gonna sink on the floor and I don't wanna smash my new pan. I guess I could put something cushiony under there, but I don't wanna have to worry about that. So I decided to put the bell housing on the engine first, so it'd be a little easier to pick the transmission up by myself. And it went okay, and it looks like it's fairly lined up. I think it'll, the pilot bearing will line up, not the pilot bearing, but the throwout bearing will line up on the shaft when I push it in there. As far as the bolts, this is the bolt that is supposed to go here. These are thicker on the sides, these 2 on the sides, and then the top 2 are a little shorter because the bell housing is thicker here and thinner at the top for some reason. But I need these 4 bolts to bolt the transmission up because I need longer ones than what was on there. Here's the ones that were on there, and you can see I need that extra ½ inch. So that's what she said. But I was looking through my stack of old bolts I have laying around, and I have a bunch of head bolts because I replaced them. And I'm sure they're plenty strong enough, but you can see it's a little bit longer. So One of the holes, the bottom hole on the side, it's through threaded, so it works fine. The other bolt is a blind hole. Well, it actually is through threaded. Oh, that's the wrong one, that's the pin. That's right here. This is a blind hole. So I just have to stack another washer on there for now, but eventually I'll pull this back out and grind it down. I'll just grind off 1/8 of an inch or so, and then it'll fit. It's really close to fitting in there, but it's just, it bottoms out. So anyway, at least I can get the engine and transmission in today, hopefully. All right, here goes. I got my transmission sitting on my little step stool, and I can fool with the angle by cranking in on my load leveling, whatever, load leveler, I don't know what you call it. And then I can just walk the whole hoist back right over the transmission, right? Way easier said than done, but I'm gonna spare you the swearing. Okay, it's almost all the way seated. I just put a pair of pliers on the end. I put it in 4th gear, and then I could rotate this back and forth to get the splines to line up, and it popped right in there. So I just got to get it that last little bit and then bolt it up. So a lot easier than trying to lift it up from the bottom of the car. Okay, finally slid it on there. Everything's torqued down. I think it's 40 foot-pounds for the transmission bolts, and then 50 for the bell housing. I still have the 2 on the very bottom of the bell housing that go to the back of the plate. I'm gonna do that later. I'm like really hot and gotta keep moving. So I had to move my kayak out of the way because I don't remember moving that before, but it didn't look like it was gonna go high enough, especially since I got it tilted so much. So here it goes. All right, so I'm raising it up. It's almost high enough to get over the radiator shroud there. I'm having some clearance issues with the crank and the arm. I know in the reviews some people moved that the crank, took it apart and moved it to this end, but I was worried about it hitting this, hitting the firewall area and all this. When it's tilted down like this, I wouldn't be able to level it out. So I can spin it. So I can spin it a little bit like that and get it around there so I can crank it if I go in a little crooked. So just keep going. I'm getting some clearance there a little bit if I keep the cherry picker at a little angle there, but it's going. So I can push down on here and tilt it a little more. It's not really that hard. The biggest issue is going to be getting this big oil pan to clear the radiator shroud there. So all right, I'm not turning off the fan, it's too hot, but I've got the tail shaft housing is in the tunnel, and everything's going good. So I don't know if I can get a full shot there. Okay, I've got the oil pan clear. The top cover is against the transmission hump right now. I'm going to run into a clearance issue with the head. You can see the head is really close right here. So I need to tilt it more level, but I can go a little bit lower and then also back up just a little bit, so that can be room, but then the pulley's going to hit. So if worst case, I can take that pulley off. That'll give me a few inches, but I'm just going to keep lowering it just a little bit at a time. Slowly getting down there. I took the pulley off just in case. I don't know if it's been an issue or not, but we're safe now. So I'm not quite resting on that top cover. I'm still hanging free. Totally, all the weight is totally on the hoist. There's nothing pushing against the car right now. So what I'm trying to do is somehow I got to clear the bell housing over those steering linkage there. So I'll just keep lowering it, and then I tilt it level a little bit more until my transmission comes up and contacts the transmission hump. And I'll lower a little more, just keep doing that and just slowly working it in there. Just taking my time. Close. I'm sitting real close to my sway bar there, and my bell housing's pretty close to the cross member. And I got plenty of clearance above the transmission, so I can tilt it more. But I'm not sure if I want to tilt it because I'm getting really close to here with these valve covers. I don't want to mess those up. Same thing on the other side, so I need to like slide underneath of here like this. So, all right, so I'm past the sway bar, getting close. I'm about so I'm about 4 or 5 inches up high. I need to go down some more. I got my valve covers underneath. It's looking pretty good so far. I am running into one little issue. My load leveler, whatever. I can't go much far forward because it's hitting that brace there. But in order to flatten the engine out more, I got to crank this thing more to the front. So that's essentially going to bring this back, right? Is it? I don't know. Maybe it's not. I guess it won't, will it? So I don't know what I'm going to do because I need to go back about 2 inches. And I can't go back 2 inches, so we'll see. I have to do something. All right, I'm tired. It's in there. So I've got this motor mount in. The other one I have the bolt started through half of the motor mount, but I have to take them back out anyway. I'm just not gonna do it today because I have to get my headers in, and I can't remember which side, but I think it's this side. I had to jack the engine up maybe an inch or so to get that header out. So anyway, I got a board propping up the tail shaft in the back, so there's no weight hanging on this hoist, and I'm gonna take it out of here because by tomorrow morning this thing's just gonna be sunk down on the bottom, all the weight resting on there. So, all right, not too bad by myself.